What's up guys, Blitz here today bringing you another video. In today's video we will be talking about a new two-part interview from Final Fantasy Portal Square Enix. In this they interview Motomu Toriyama about various details regarding Remake Part 1. This is pretty cool as it gives us slightly more depth on the thought process and ideas which went into creating Remake Part 1. This is just the first part of the interview and Part 2 will be out next week, which I will be covering for you guys, so stay tuned for more. We got lots of new information that came out this week and I look forward to bringing you guys more videos on that. Remake boss guides, character builds, and old school PS1 live streams will continue to be a regular on the channel. Now with all that being said, let's get into the video. The first question is about the music choice for Remake and the parallels that it has with the original game. We were surprised to hear the main theme of Final Fantasy VII playing in the Sector 7 slums. Was there a reason for that song choice? Toriyama says, in Final Fantasy VII Remake, you return to the Sector 7 slums many times, and we intended for it to serve as a central hub over the course of the story, so we wanted it to feel like a home, a cozy place that you can come back to. To that end, we chose the main theme of Final Fantasy VII, which played on the world map in the original game there. Final Fantasy VII Remake takes place solely in Midgar, but we didn't want to limit its soundtrack to songs originally only heard within the city. Instead, we utilized tracks heard throughout the original game that fit certain scenes or areas of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Many fans of the original, including myself, can agree that the main theme being the world map song in the original had an everlasting impact on us. I love that they wanted to include that feeling somewhat into this game, and they're absolutely right. The feeling of walking around Sector 7 with Tifa and having the main theme playing in the background was a nostalgic rush. Newcomers to the series most definitely had to have noticed this as well. The rendition of the main theme they chose was perfect for making you feel at home. What were the drinks that Tifa made at 7th Heaven? Toriyama says, first was the popular 7th Heaven drink, a drink that packs a serious punch and gives you the courage to keep on going. The second creation was a Cosmo Canyon, a burgundy colored cocktail inspired by the location of the same name. There are also other drinks on the menu at 7th Heaven such as the Livestream, which possesses a green hue. Tifa's showmanship with the shaker comes from her natural dexterity and her keen observation that the regulars are more generous tippers when she puts some flair into her bartending. I'm sure it's not her bartending skills the regulars are mainly tipping for, but seriously, she has the skills to pay the bills when it comes to the flair. I definitely think it's pretty damn cool that they added more to the characters' personalities and took the time to add these things to bring the world to life. I really hope one day a 7th Heaven pop-up bar can appear and we can all have a chance to enjoy that live stream drink. Many of you guys know how much I love my Cosmo Canyons on the live streams where I usually knock down about 2 or 3 of them. So join us sometime live so that we can cheers a glass or maybe 5. There are several new characters in Final Fantasy VII Remake who did not appear in the original, including the mysterious young Chadley. Could you tell us a little bit about his past? Toriyama says you can learn about Chadley's origins by completing his battle reports. While some of the quests pose a serious challenge, you'll need to complete them to discover his past. There are so many cats in the Sector 7 slums. Is there a cat lover on the development team? Toriyama says Sector 7's excessive number of cats can be attributed to Wedge. He loves the furry critters so much, and he can't help but bring any stray he finds back home with him. As for cat lovers on the dev team, co-director Hamaguchi is one, so he had his cat rendered in-game. Personally, I wanted to make sure some dog people were not left out, so we decided to even things out by increasing Midgar's canine population. That's why Marl, the landlord of Stargazer Heights, can actually be seen with her own loyal companion. You know, being straight up with you guys right now, I did not notice that dog at all until just now. I must have been too busy focusing on how crazy good Marl's hair looks. Oh my god, like damn, that rendering is almost flawless and she's not even a main character. What? Wedge's cats seem a little bit on the large side. Could that be a case of pets resembling their owners? Toriyama says Wedge's cats eat just as much and as often as he does, so any animal in his care is going to grow very quickly. Shots fired. Cloud's mother and Tifa's father weren't given names in the original Final Fantasy VII, but how about in Remake? Toriyama says they actually both had names in the original Final Fantasy VII character design documents, so we decided to use them in Remake. Now Cloud's mother is officially named Claudia, and Tifa's father is Brian. Tifa's dad, however, has no dialogue in Remake, so during development we referred to him as Dead Body. Cloud's mom's name being Claudia is kind of funny to me because that's what people would call Cloud whenever he wears the dress in Wall Market. Also, Brian Lockhart does have a pretty nice ring to it, but if it were spelled the correct way, Brian with a Y, maybe he would have lived and actually been named instead of being referred to as a dead body. Just saying. There's not much plant life under the plates of Midgar, but so many flowers bloom around Aerith's house. Is there a reason for that? Toriyama says the large river running through the outskirts of Sector 5's Undercity brings fresh water, rich with nutrients from the planet's Livestream, to both Aerith's house and the dilapidated church. This is the same water that Aerith uses to lovingly tend to her flowers. Also, the fact that Aerith is an ancient could also be another reason for the vibrant vegetation there. This actually makes a lot of sense. I always chalked it up to Aerith being an ancient and being able to create life because of that. But the flowing water from the river providing life stream nutrients is actually making a lot more sense. One thing I always notice about Aerith's place is that there is no bathroom in her house. So people ask me often, where does she do number 2? Well, let's just say Aerith saves a fortune on manure for her garden, if you know what I mean. When trying to sneak out of Aerith's house at night, did the number of obstacles decrease with each failed attempt, or was it just our imagination? Toriyama says, despite being mad at Cloud, Aerith cleans up the mess bit by bit to make it easier for him to sneak out. To give you some more behind the scenes info, we actually wanted to spook the player a bit when Aerith scolds Cloud, which is why she sounds kind of scary when scolding him. Aerith is waiting for Cloud after he leaves anyways, so maybe she was just playing with him. Kind of terrifying when you think of it like that. I don't have any recorded footage of Aerith scolding Cloud during this scene, but I gotta ask for those who have had it happen to them in English or Japanese, did it have any horror related themes around the way that Aerith talks to Cloud? That's pretty interesting to hear, and if you're watching this, please leave a comment below or let me know in the live chat. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about this if it happened to you. The first time I did this, I didn't even realize that there were so many different items that you could actually bump into. When I replayed the game during our live streams, I failed about 2 times, and only then I realized how many objects there actually were. Aerith removing things bit by bit is actually a pretty cool detail. I did not notice that. Despite being a child, the items Magi sells are impressive. Where does he get them from? Toriyama says there are plenty of passionate Mugen Metal collectors out there, even among adults, and it's through them that Magi is able to trade for the rare items he offers to Cloud. Magi is one example of how even kids living in the Sector 5 Undercity are tough and resourceful. Final Fantasy will always include Moogles in their games, it's just a series staple. I was wondering how they were going to do this in this game since we're only going to be in Midgar. The main times that we see Moogles in the original Final Fantasy 7 are when we go to the Gold Saucer. So to my surprise in Chapter 8, when we come across Magi who is a Moogle and redeems your Moogle medals for items and also has the Gold Saucer theme song playing, which you can also purchase from him, was pretty cool. Isn't Rude unusually nice to women? He keeps putting them to sleep in battle. What? Alright, that sounds kind of weird to me, I'm not gonna lie. Toriyama says, in the original Final Fantasy VII, Rude won't attack Tifa, so we decided that he wouldn't actively attack women in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Of course, battles wouldn't really work if he didn't attack female characters at all, so we made him less aggressive and just putting them to sleep. Believe it or not, Rude is actually a very nice guy. But of course, because he's a Turk,
I sometimes have to do bad things.
When it comes to the female characters, he uses non-lethal attacks and tries to put them to sleep. But against Tifa, his one true love, he will run away at the thought of having to hit her. At least, that's what happens when you put Tifa in Chapter 8 and try to fight him, which provides for some hilarious moments of him non-stop running away. How was the Guardian Angel of the Slums character created? Toriyama says the character Miriel originally appeared in a novel portraying events following Final Fantasy VII's meteor fall called Final Fantasy VII, The Kids Are Alright, a Turk's Side Story, and we decided to include her in Final Fantasy VII Remake. After some deliberation over how she would have spent her time in Midgar, we came up with the idea of her being a Robin Hood style thief for the people of the slums. Kyrie and Leslie are also from that novel. What reasons were there for including them in Final Fantasy VII Remake as well? Did you provide them with more backstory? Toriyama says because Kyrie and Leslie were both part of that story, we decided to include them in the game as Undercity residents. From the very beginning of development, we wanted a remake to feature characters from the larger FF7 universe, characters who weren't a part of the original. So we came up with these paths for these characters that would fit with their stories in the novel. Leslie in particular got a lot more screen time since he was one of Don Corneo's lackeys, involving him in the main story. You know, I'm all for adding new characters to the story, but I do hope going forward in the future games that the side missions and lore that comes with those characters are better thought out and overall more impactful. This is Remake Part 1, so everything could be further expanded on and provided more depth going forward, but I'm just saying they should take their time and make these side missions a little bit better, which I hope is a priority because that second sewer visit with Leslie was really boring in my opinion. And one of my subscribers brought up a really good idea where Tifa should have had to wear Kyrie's clothes and fought in the Coliseum pretending to be her as part of that mission, which would have provided for some more entertaining moments than what we got instead. Even the background characters out and about the city have a lot of personality. Do you have a personal favorite? Toriyama says a great deal of NPC characters and dialogue from the original game, a lot of which I also worked on, were repurposed for Remake. That's always fun to see. Of all the NPCs, the lovey-dovey couple at the Sector 7 Slums train station is by far my favorite. And as of right now, that's the final question from this interview. The last message reads, "Thank you very much, Mr. Toriyama. Part 2 of this interview will be available on the Final Fantasy Portal site August 12th next week. When that is released, I'll be sure to cover it immediately for you guys. So be sure to stay tuned to the channel so you don't miss out on more details for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 and news for Part 2. And that wraps it up for this video, guys. With Remake Part 2 in development, we will be receiving more news on that as time goes on. Till then, it seems the developers have been going around and doing interviews talking about the creative process and inspirations behind Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1. And I personally like covering these regardless because seeing what goes into crafting this game is pretty damn cool in my opinion. I just love hearing about how the developers are just big fans of the game as we are. And learning about these little details that help them make the decisions that they did for Part 1 can ultimately help us understand their mindset of going into making Remake Part 2. There are other interviews that are still being translated, so as soon as those are done, I will be bringing that video to you guys ASAP. Shoutouts to the members on the channel. If you have not yet, please join our membership. You will get video shoutouts, access to channel exclusive emojis, and special Discord titles for our community. We have tons of perks as well that are constantly being updated, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that. I appreciate all of you guys for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me, and I'm looking forward to our next live stream. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you are new. More Final Fantasy VII Remake videos are coming your way and you won't want to miss them. My name is BltzZ, and thanks for watching.